This is Juliana Jackson, and we're back to another show and tell session. And this one is going to be pretty interesting. I'm here with Sourabh, and he actually created a very interesting app that uses Google Apps Script. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah.
I found out about you after I took a Google Apps Script course, and I think I found you on Twitter. And then I saw that you built a whole tool to help people, do work better and work smarter. So I wanted to bring you here to my YouTube channel to show us what you built and who can it help and, what type of work can we automate. So welcome. And I'm going to leave you on the stage. The stage is yours. Show us what you got.
All right. Thanks so much for having me here, Juliana. And yeah, it's been amazing. Especially, I think we specifically got in touch when, I started seeing you learn and grow in terms of a little bit of your coding skills and helping out, I think, a whole bunch of other marketers as well. So I think that's how, really the engagement started. And I ended up sort of building this workspace add-on that I'm really excited to share here. Okay, so essentially what I ended up building was webhooks for Google Sheets. Now, webhooks as a concept is rather pretty simplistic, where essentially a particular service, let's say you can think about either Airtable or let's say, spreadsheets, Google Sheets, or rather any other tool, giving you an endpoint through which you can, input information or just throw in information to that tool. Now, generally, more sophisticated webhooks essentially do a two-way interaction, which is, for example, you send them the data and then they give you a synchronous response. So for example, you can ask them, okay, given a name, can you give me somebody's address, right? So essentially webhooks can accommodate that request and response. However, what I ended up building was just one-way interaction, which is to say, if somebody wanted to push data inside a particular Google Sheet, they could do that using webhooks for Sheets. Now, one of the interesting things with the way that I've done this and I've built this is purely AppScript native, which is to say you don't really need any third-party application, for example, like a Node.js app or maybe a Python app or anything of that sort to be able to accommodate this particular activity inside Google Sheets, right? And the way I've sort of built this is, let's say you can either install it from here, you can either do an individual install or an admin install. In typical case, I would assume people would generally open a new spreadsheet, and the way to sort of install any add-on just doesn't matter if it is webhooks for Sheets or something else. You can always just, I think, go to extensions and add-ons and get add-ons. You can just click there. And once again, there's a bit of a pop-up here, search for webhooks, and you'll find like a bunch of other options. In this case, we'll see webhooks for Sheets. You can choose this particular app right here. Same thing, go ahead and do an individual or an admin install. I'm going to do that real quick right here. It'll ask me to sign in. Go ahead and connect the appropriate account. This is sort of also very important. Sometimes, or rather most times, people have multiple Google accounts connected. Please make sure you're choosing the right account or you're on the right Chrome profile when you're giving the authorization here. Some of the things this add-on uses is, of course, it'll be able to manage your Google Sheets, connect to an external service, essentially making API calls to the AppScript API itself. It'll also create a Google Apps Script that is attached to your Google Sheet, and of course, keep updating that particular project. So feel free to read through these. Google has done a really good job in terms of making sure it gives as much information as it can. I'm going to go ahead and click allow, give it a quick minute here. It'll take a second to load. I'm going to hit next. Sure, there are a couple additional steps, additional instructions here. Feel free to read them. I'm going to hit done, close this right here. And these are other things with add-ons when we install it from inside a sheet, that it doesn't instantly register the add-on right here. So what we need to do is, again, go ahead and refresh this particular sheet right here. And then you get to see a small icon on the sidebar, indicating that, hey, a new add-on has now been installed. So there is webhooks for Sheets. You can now go ahead and click that. And it essentially, what this add-on does is less in terms of a direct interaction between the add-on and the spreadsheet directly. But instead, what I've done is I've created a rather workflow, an automated workflow, wherein users don't have to copy paste the code on a script editor, don't have to go about deploying the script, don't have to sort of worry about, okay, what kind of auth scopes and a bunch of other things that they need to handle. All of that in essence is a workflow that has been incorporated inside this particular add-on. So that's essentially how this works. Now this, since we refreshed the spreadsheet, it automatically saved this particular spreadsheet. But imagine if you were sort of creating this afresh. So let me just redo that once again. Assuming that you are creating a brand new spreadsheet, you have not saved this particular spreadsheet yet, and the add-on has been installed, right? So the moment you click there, it will give you a step-by-step instructions in terms of what needs to happen. So let's start with the prerequisites here. So for instance, the first thing, and this is something I learned when building the add-on, was that the moment you let's say rather create this sheet, though you see that there's a sheet ID here, it doesn't mean that it has been quote unquote saved to your drive. So it's very important that you first of all save this particular spreadsheet to your Google Drive. One of the ways you can do that is by naming the spreadsheet, or of course, if you change anything or edit anything in the cells, the sheet would automatically be saved to the drive. But the easier way I thought about this was just rename this or just add a name to it, and you'll see a notification here that, okay, it is now saved to drive. The second most important thing is you need to enable the AppScript API as well. And this is rather a quirky yet interesting thing that people can sort of get to know about, workspace ecosystem altogether. Generally, this would have been toggled off. All you really have to do is just go ahead and click that button, and the Google AppScript API would now be toggled on. So that's step number 2. The step number 3 is really just go about and refresh this particular add-on. Once again, you can either click that button or just reload the entire spreadsheet and open the add-on again, and the add-on would have just been refreshed. So that's essentially the prerequisite phase. And now is really when you get to create the add-on or create the webhook from inside this particular add-on. Right. So a couple optional parameters that I've provided for users is, imagine if you had multiple different sheets that you have created here, for example, right? In case you are using this add-on on an existing spreadsheet, then you can imagine there'll be like a bunch of different sheets that would already be created. And then that's essentially what you can do in terms of select a default sheet to which you'd want the data to land on. So imagine we want the default sheet in our case, to be sheet 2, for instance, right? So you can go ahead and select that. And in this case, I'm just going to go ahead and select sheet 2 here. Now, this second optional parameter is something that came out of a much more popular demand, or rather a challenge that a lot of the users who are using this add-on reached out to me with. Now, to explain this a little bit, it goes a little bit technical here. So in case you're really not interested, feel free to skip the video a little bit further to the next chapter. But otherwise, a quick scenario in this particular case is, if at all you use the content service, which is a way in which you can output a particular request or a response in the JSON format, it essentially gives you a 302 redirect status, because that's what AppScript does. And it's an inherent thing that AppScript in itself does out of the box. There's no way to sort of configure this. So if you were to use that approach, you'd end up getting a JSON response, which is generally the way to do these things. So imagine if you're making a request to the API or to a webhook, you typically expect a JSON response because that's the normal standard as of today. However, with AppScript, you'd end up getting a 302 status code, which is rather not the best thing when, let's say, for example, you're using this webhook on GitHub, or you're using this on Slack, or you're using this or from another service, which is pushing data. Because what they would understand or interpret this as, okay, the webhook for some reason did not give a 200 OK response, which is a status code which represents everything was okay, the request was successful, and the data has now been successfully pushed from system A to system B. Essentially, you don't get that with the JSON output. So there is a way in which you can force a 200 OK response. And the downside to that is the output of that response would be in HTML format, which nobody uses and nobody does in an ideal scenario. So that's an option now most users can get. They can either toggle this on so that they can force a 200 OK response. Otherwise, you can just leave it as is, and then you'd get a JSON response with a 302 status code. I'm just going to leave it to the default setting right here. And finally, I mean, that's essentially in terms of the options that you have right now. And once you have set that, you can go ahead and click on the create button right here. So I'm just going to go ahead and do that. This is where the add-on is making these API calls to Google Apps Script REST API directly. It is first creating a script and associating that script to this particular spreadsheet. It is then essentially updating the script with the webhook code that we are fetching from GitHub, and finally deploying that script as a web app so that people can actually make requests and get response as part of a webhook. So all of these things, it basically took those couple 10, 15 seconds to sort of make that happen. So typically at this stage is when you would essentially get the webhook, but we are still not done here yet, because there's also a phase where you need to authorize the webhook or give it the necessary permissions for it to run. And that's another, essentially, in a way, a challenge or a barrier to use these tools inside the app script and the Google Workspace ecosystem. But I've tried to make it fun and make sure that people sort of get these instructions and not sort of lose their way through this. And so the first thing we need to do is reload the spreadsheet again. The second thing is, the moment we reload this, we then get a custom menu that will show up right here. It would say webhook, where we'll get a sub menu where we need to click and authorize it. Unfortunately, we will have to repeat this step again, because the first authorization is just letting the script know, hey, okay, you have our permission to run whatever you need to run. The second time we actually click this particular button, it would actually end up running the function, which is what we want in the first place. So that's like a step that we need to repeat. And finally, we can just reload the spreadsheet once. And not to worry, you don't have to remember these things from memory, because you can always just come back here and you'll get this particular list right away. So let's do that. So I'm going to go ahead and refresh this spreadsheet real quick and give it a couple of quick seconds, because it takes a while. Though it's an empty spreadsheet, it takes a while to load. And you'll see that there's a small webhooks menu that show up right here. For now, I'm just going to open this up so that people can so that you can essentially see as to what are the different steps here. So we have reloaded the sheet. Perfect. Now we need to authorize this. So I'm going to go ahead and click webhooks, authorize, and you'll see it's sort of doing its magic right here. It's asking us for the authorization. We can hit continue. And then there's the authorization part once again. This authorization is essentially for the script that associated with this spreadsheet, which I can show you in a quick second there. And so we've done the step 2. The step 3 is essentially just repeating step 2. So I'm going to go to webhooks once again, authorize this, and you'll see that there's a small post that showed up for like a quick second there, and just went back again. And finally, we can just reload the spreadsheet there, just so we avoid getting to see that unnecessary webhooks menu right there. We no longer need that, so that's gone. Now, if we go back to the add-on, you'd finally get the next button here, so you can just go ahead and click that. Essentially, what this signals the add-on is that, okay, the webhook has been authorized and it is ready to sort of, we are ready to sort of use this. And by the end of all of this, you get this nice little link right here. So I'm selecting this right now. You can just go ahead and copy this, for instance, and now start making get and post requests. And to demo that, what I can do is I've opened Postman right now. And this is another amazing tool through which you can make these requests a little bit more easier. So in our case, let's quickly test a bunch of different ways in which you can sort of push data. So here it's a get request that I'm making, and in terms of the parameters, let's say I can add my name. I'm going to add a dummy name. I'm going to add my name right here. The email, I'm just going to add that as well. And let's say a dummy number. So in this case, just 123. And the moment I give it a quick second, it's just doing a bunch of things. You will see that I get a JSON response here saying status success, data logged successfully. And if we go back to the spreadsheet, you will see in sheet 2, the data has now been logged. Now, once we have this set up, the webhook is now fully functional. You can essentially use this webhook in a bunch of different places where there are tools that send out these events of data that you may want to capture and log on a particular tabular format, and that's something that you can do using this particular tool. So we just used the get request. Now the other magic that I figured when I was working through this add-on was, imagine if you wanted to log data, the same data, but on different pages for whatever reason that you may have, right? Say if you wanted to, some part of the data being logged in one sheet and the other part of the data being logged in some other sheet, right? So you can do that as well, because Google Sheets provides us with nice little GID. So these are unique identifiers for each of these particular sheets that we have. So we can use multiple GIDs in case you want to log data at multiple different sources. So I'm going to, let's say, copy this GID right here. And let's say I'm going to, instead of making a GET request this time, I'm going to go ahead and make a POST request. And for that, I'm going to remove all the query parameters. However, I'm going to add another, well, I'm going to change the first GID to this one. And let's say I'm going to take another GID from another page and copy that and paste that in here. So you'll see that there are two parameters with the same identifier, which is another beautiful way that the script is written, which will accommodate this particular scenario by all in itself. So I'm going to go to the body and make this a JSON body right here. I'm going to copy this object. I already have this prepared for this call. So for this video, and in this case, let's say we are now making a POST request. We are sending some data by making a POST request, but to two different sheets, right? So I'm going to go, we can even do that. I'm just going to go ahead and hit send and just give it a quick second, and you'll see that there's another success response right here. Now, if you go back to our sheets 3 and 4, you will see that the data has been logged in both of these sheets. And that's the beauty of using multiple GIDs in case you want to store data, the same data in different sheets, or rather different types of data in different sheets. You can absolutely do that. One final nice thing about this particular add-on is also I've automatically flattened the data. So imagine at times you can have scenarios where you have nested JSON data. For instance, in this case, there is number, and then it has objects, which is the home number and the mobile number, right? And the way I see this is generally, if you're logging anything on a 2D array, which is like a row and column scenario, you'd rather want to have one cell containing a single piece of information and one column, having a single piece of information as well. So what I've done is, in this case, that we can just copy this, and let's say I'm going to paste this particular nested JSON. I'm going to remove this GID, and let's just start logging this information on a new sheet instead. So I'm going to copy another GID right here, paste that in, and let's say we then send this particular request right through. And you'll see, and now we have it. The data was logged successfully. Yeah, there it is. Yeah, generally the script works in a way where you can now, essentially you can see here, you'll have the column set in a way where you have the number underscore home, which is essentially a flattened version of the data, and number underscore mobile as another entity altogether. So you have this information show up to make life a little bit more easier. Yeah, essentially this is what you can do with this particular workspace add-on. Webhooks is a commonly popular concept, but with a lot of evolved tools that you end up using today. If you're somebody who uses Jira or maybe Opsgenie or PagerDuty or GitHub or any of these other tools, which essentially support these webhook events, and you wish to sort of log these kind of data points inside a spreadsheet, I think this workspace add-on can be of a lot of help. So I hope this was interesting. And yeah, Juliana, what do you think?
This is awesome. I absolutely love what you did here. I remember I struggled with the AppScript course when I took it. Even if the teacher, Dave Sotimano, was really awesome, because from him I learned. I think you did a great job. And I was curious, like, could you tell me what are some interesting use cases that you've seen where people use your product?
Gotcha. Well, thanks for the question. Right. I think so. When I started this, I wasn't really even aware of some of these cases, but as and when people started reporting some of these issues, it was becoming super interesting to even learn what is it that they're using this for, right? So when I created this webhooks inherently, like I said, there's one way to pull data, which is you can keep polling a particular API. So for example, if you have a GitHub repository, you can just keep polling the API to check if somebody new has starred it, right? Let's say you're counting the number of stars that you have in your GitHub repository. You can keep polling the API, I don't know, every minute, every hour, every day to see if something has changed or not, right? And that's rather a very resource intense activity, because you're making API calls, you are making requests to the API, et cetera, et cetera. Now, webhook on the other way is, imagine, instead of you asking GitHub, hey, has something new happen? What if GitHub could automatically send you these events whenever they're happening, right? And that's the beauty of webhooks in general. Like whenever these events occur in these third-party tools, they trigger an event to the endpoints that we provide. So for example, that's essentially how I sort of got drawn into making use of web. GitHub was one. There are, of course, a whole bunch of incident management tools that people use. For example, you have, something is down, let's say Slack is down, and you are part of their incident management, incident response team. And one of the things which comes in handy during the post-incident scenario is to understand what are the activities that happen at what points in time. Can we get a log? Who did what, when, and where, right? So these things, of course, generally, typically what people end up doing is manually type this in. Okay, so accepted the invite or accepted the incident. Juliana started debugging at so and so time, and so on and so forth, right? So these are the things people end up manually typing when they're sort of creating the incident report. But imagine you could get that log as and when these events are happening on a spreadsheet on a timeline basis, right? So essentially, that's one of the things, one of the obvious things I would say, people end up using. But some of the people who reached out to me, they essentially use this for when somebody gets paid on Stripe, right? So for example, there was a new customer who subscribed to their service. So Stripe has a nice way of sending these as part of events in webhooks. So a webhook is triggered where they're using this particular endpoint and then log that data onto a Google Sheet. So they sort of win in two ways. One, they don't have to create a report from scratch as to how many people subscribe to this service in this particular month or this particular date, because automatically all of those data points are being logged. So that's rather a much easier thing to do. And the other thing is they don't have to manage these scripts. They don't have to think about, okay, do I need to run this every night, every XYZ frequency? They don't have to think about any of that at all. So I think that's another very interesting thing. I've seen this with Shopify and Stripe specifically. These two rather use cases came up when people reported some of these issues to me. Yeah.
This is really cool. It also makes me think about sentries for JavaScript. If you have like debugging happening, it can send you like different things. And I'm a big fan of change logs, and I'm a big fan of activity logs, because otherwise you won't know where to go and to fix a problem, and you're just ending up trying to fix things that are already working. And it happened to me a lot of times.
Absolutely.
It's really
absolutely.
Awesome.
That makes sense.
And I saw like you already have like 100,000 downloads. That's crazy.
Yeah, so I think the interesting thing about this was what ended up happening. I think one day, one org essentially did about 100K installs. So I suspect that's really what's happened. There's one org with roughly about 100,000 users, I'm guessing, is what would have happened. And somebody would have done an admin install there. But it nonetheless shows up right here. So it's a pretty cool thing that those many users would rather get exposed to being able to use this inside their organization, right? So I'm pretty excited to see if at all there are more such scenarios where I think I can tap into the business side or the business user side of it and then see if at all this is more helpful there. But yeah.
So if anyone wants to go right now and install it, if they have any questions, I'm sure they can reach out to you, correct? And you can, help them.
Oh, absolutely. I'm sort of available. You can get my handle at Choraria. That's my last name. Across, I think, LinkedIn, Twitter. I went on a bender recently and I sort of got all my handles. So essentially, if you're on a particular platform, so you can find me on, like, of course, I have my email right here. There's this Twitter, the same handle. LinkedIn is the same handle. A bunch of other places. It's got the pretty much. It's pretty much got the same handle across a whole bunch of different places. So yeah,
I need to get this done too, because this is and it looks cool. I like it. I'm struggling with building my own website, because this is how it is, that you have time to do other stuff, but you never have time for yourself and to market yourself.
For sure. Thank you. Absolutely.
This was awesome. I'm really excited, and I think I'm going to try it too, because I think it fits with some case studies and use cases that we have right now, which I cannot speak about obviously because we're recording, but I think it's really awesome. And for me especially, I take it like a very good debugging tool in a way. That's how I see it, because you can see a lot of things that might go wrong, and I do handle troubleshooting a lot in my role right now, and especially in WordPress. Oh my God, like there's always something that it doesn't work with all the plugins. So I think this is an interesting use case. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for showing. You can find the links to the tool, to get in touch with Sourabh in the description. And if you like this episode and if you like the tool, reach out to him and get it done, and then come back and tell us what's your opinion about the tool.